Now let's jump. We have two very important conversations today, and I have the two right persons in the house to dissect them for us. I have Mr. Johnson Chukwu already standing by, and Mr. Bismarck Rewani would also be joining us on the show today for two very interesting conversations. But oil prices fell Tuesday, that's yesterday, August 19th, according to that chart, over the possibility that the meeting between the United States and Russia and US, Russia, and Ukraine could lead to the easing of sanctions on Russian crude, leading to an increase in the supply of the commodity. Now, according to data from oilprice.com, Brent crude was down by 1.01%, or about 67 cents, to trade at $65.93 per barrel, while the West Texas Intermediate crude was down by 1.23%, or 78 cents, to trade at $62.64 per barrel. At the time of writing this report, this could further put Nigeria's fiscal plan, especially for 2025, in serious jeopardy, as this will worsen the budget deficit of the government. The U.S. President Donald Trump, and after the meeting with the Ukrainian president and European allies, announced in a social media post that he had spoken with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Now, back and forth around all of this, what it means for Nigeria, revenues from the agricultural sector, how well are we getting revenues from exports? Let's talk to Mr. Johnson Chukwu. He is the Group Chief Executive Officer of Cowrie Assets Management Limited, not joining us today from the island, but he's joining us from the United States of America to have this conversation. Good afternoon, Mr. Johnson Chukwu. I must thank you so much for having you join the program. I know the time difference. It's not really very easy. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Tolu, for having me. You know, I'm a man under authority. Whenever you wake me up and say I should join, I have no choice than to join.
I'm honored. Thank you so much for that. But really, when I saw the price of crude and this flip-flop that we've seen in that market, I'm beginning to wonder how that affects our assumptions and, of course, projections for our 2025 budget. Is there any reason to be afraid? Let me ask that way.
Well, Tolu, from the one, we had always felt that we are not likely going to achieve the budgeted revenue from oil as encapsulated in the 2025 budget. Remember that the budget is set at 2.06 million barrels a day and about $74 a barrel. So clearly, those were two very ambitious parameters that had set in that budget. Yes, we have seen consistent improvement in crude production in the past 2 months. I think the last figure said we have produced about 1.8 million barrels a day, but that's still shy of the 2.06 million barrels a day. And then we are looking at an era where pronouncement by the U.S. President, Mr. Donald Trump, have direct impact on crude prices. We've seen major oscillation in crude prices in the past since the beginning of this year, since January. And clearly, if you track the revenues we've made from crude oil, it's obvious that we are not able to meet the budgeted revenue from that segment of that revenue head. So it's not strange, it's not surprising. The good thing is that we are seeing improvement in crude production. So let's continue to deal with the one that is endogenous. That is the one we can control, which is our level of crude production. If we can ratchet up crude production to the level of 2.06 million barrels a day, then we're only dealing with one negative variant, which is price variance. And then the impact will be moderated.
But do we have options now, considering budget deficits and what we face with regards to that? I'm worried about servicing our debt.
Well, Tolu, we have minimal latitude in terms of improving revenue, particularly foreign currency denominated revenue. Of course, we've seen some improvement in internally generated revenues coming from Federal Revenue Service, revenues coming from other segments, non-government-owned agencies. We've seen improvement in revenues, internally generated revenues. But in terms of the fact is that earnings from crude oil export and gas export have multiple impacts on Nigeria's fiscal conditions. One, they help us generate foreign currency, which help us stabilize the exchange rate and maintain some level of macroeconomic stability. So there is clearly, as at now, no substitute to foreign currency earnings from crude oil exports. there could be some replacement or some substitution from local revenue, locally internally generated revenue in terms of government expenditure. But if we talk of foreign currency debt services, I do not think we actually have a problem. We are going to have a problem with foreign currency debt services based on our current debt profile and current earnings. But we will certainly have an impact on exchange rate stability unless the central bank becomes more aggressive and increase the treasury basis, which has moderated as earnings from crude oil improved.
The NEPC came up with a figure which everyone commended sometime last week or a week before, $3.2 billion. That's talking about exports at this time. Many analysts came up to say it's a step in the right direction. I'm going to ask you what you make of this and the fundamentals, those produce, urea, fertilizer, and all of those coming into the mix. Are we getting to that point where we are diversifying our economy as much as it should be diversified?
Absolutely. The products you just mentioned are the benefits of having a local refining industry. Those are byproducts of refineries, and I believe those products are coming from Dangote refineries.
All right, then we'll be trying to reconnect with how we get on that conversation back with Mr. Johnson Chukwu. We're looking at exports and the figures that came up from the NEPC, what that means for Nigeria's economy at this time. Looking at alternatives, revenue generation sources for government. Mr. Johnson Chukwu, do we have you back?
Yes, sorry, I don't know what happened.
Okay.
We thought failures is only in Nigeria. You can also see it first in America.
I was about to say that. But let me allow you to take over. Go ahead.
It's a consolation for us. So when they talk to me, I talk to them back that their network also failed.
All right, then.
So what I was saying is that the more we domesticate our petroleum industry, the broader our export products will be. So we are seeing some level of benefication from our crude oil, from oil industry. We need to also expand that to several other sectors where we have critical raw input materials for production. The cement industry, we have done that. There are several other sectors that because we have the resources, take for instance the solid mineral sector, we basically extract granite and export the unprocessed granite and then import back processed granite into the country at a very high cost. We need to also move towards domesticating and improving the benefication of all the sectors where we have relative comparative advantage.
Now, agriculture's contribution is another thing that becomes worrisome. In a statement, I saw the minister talking about the contribution to GDP. And when we looked at the last GDP figure, the rebased GDP figures, in your thoughts, do you think that agriculture contributed as much as it should have? If not, what more can we do to take advantage of this vast land? We keep talking about this vast land. What can we do to take advantage of it? Yes, we have insecurity on one side, which government is trying to tackle head on, but what more can we do? What are those practical steps? Are there quick wins for Nigeria's agricultural sector?
So it's difficult to talk of quick wins, but let me say this. I think the problem we have is not the contribution of the agricultural sector to the GDP of the country. We're already talking based on the rebased GDP, we're talking about 23%. We should be focusing on what is the growth of that sector. If you look at the last report from NBS, the agricultural sector grew at 0.07%. That's a flat. That simply means it didn't grow at all. But remember, that sector is the largest employer of labor. But not only that, it's the sector that feeds the country. And that's why you have high food unemployment. I mean, food inflation. But key thing we should look at is that, which is what talk about. Do we have a quick win? Can we talk of a quick wins? First is that we need to look at addressing the issue of insecurity. And then the second aspect that we need to look at is improving the productivity or the yield of cultivated land. It's not just enough to say we have a large arable land. One, most of the arable land are not being cultivated. Two, even the one that is being cultivated, is the yield we produce from each hectare of cultivated land in almost all the products we cultivate are far below what the other countries produce. Take, for instance, rice yield. Take, for instance, maize yield. So we need to improve the yield on cultivated land by improving the quality of the seedling as well as the process or the agricultural processes we use in cultivating the land we have. So that's the second factor. And then you look at the issue of land use acts, encouraging industrial agricultural activities. Part of it has been constrained by insecurity. Part of it has been constrained by land use acts that people find it difficult to acquire large area of land that makes for commercial agriculture.
Now, almost finally, Mr. Johnson Chukwu, that handshake, that synergy between the Apex Bank, Ministry of Finance, this time around, the FRS, yes, you know, the name will be changed very soon. I think that'll be by January. We see that handshake between the three of them this time better than what we used to have before now. I think yesterday there was a meeting between the three of them talking about how to harmonize revenue, coming together and all of that. Sometimes you even see the customs service coming in. Now, my question to you really is, what do you make of that synergy between almost all arms of government with regards to managing Nigeria's economy to achieve inclusive growth? Is it a step in the right direction? What more can we do?
Actually, it's clearly an improvement from where we are coming from. If you remember some of the interviews I had with you during the last administration, I had always said that we have a government where the critical economic policy decision makers are operating in silos. And then we had a lot of dormancy as it relates to the fiscal policy environment. So we had an overdrive from the monetary policy environment or monetary policy managers. So we have seen some level of improvement from that. We've seen a reasonable level of synergy between the fiscal authority, the monetary authorities, which is when you talk of Federal Inland Revenue Service, you talk of the central bank, and then you also have the the critical economic agencies of government are also working in harmony. So hopefully that will ensure that we have more harmonized policy environment. We have a clearly focused direction in terms of policy of government. What do we want to drive? Do we want to drive improvements in productivity, improvement in employment, or do we want to drive lower prices, drive that inflation rate? Because sometimes we are seeing some of these policies conflict. For instance, the policies you need to drive economic activities will be at variance with the policies you need to curtail inflation. So you need to have a policy harmonization that says, let us drive in this direction for this moment, for this period of time, and see what we'll achieve. Hopefully, with the improvement in productivity, you're going to drive down inflation.
Finally, increase agri-export earnings, which we touched on. Let's wrap up on that note. $400 million in FX is what is coming in, and that is not too well. For me, I think, are we supposed to add more value to what we export? Or why do you think that our proceeds are still this way? How can we improve it?
Well, I think the key thing is benefication of what we produce. Take, for instance, we produce cassava. I don't see any country that is importing cassava from you. But if you convert the cassava into starch and several other byproducts that you can produce from cassava, you are likely to go to export that. You look at your palm oil industry. Are you going to export palm kernels, or are you going to export refined vegetable oil? So if we improve benefication on some of the products we produce in large quantity, we are likely going to see an improvement on our export earnings. The form we currently produce most of our products are not suitable for the export market.
Well, it's a good way to live it. Mr. Johnson Chukwu, I must thank you so much, Group CEO, Carrier Assets Management Limited. Thank you again for your time. We don't take this for granted. Thank you so much. Have a great day.